Good evening, good evening, good evening. Take two. I realized that I'd written Thursday, and I'm like, it's not Thursday, it's Wednesday. Like a day ahead. So I said, well, let me correct it, and let's just restart this. Alright, so I've had several people over the last couple of days ask me, you're like, Maris, you used to do readings all the time. What's the holdup? What's the deal? How come you're not doing them all the time anymore? And I was, like, what do you say? How do you answer that? And so I said, well, let me explain. Sometimes when I do readings, or when I do like a general reading, sometimes it's kind of like across the board. Maybe it seems like it's a little ambiguous because you're taking how many million people, 80 million people's energy, and you're trying to like sort it in a 5-card reading or whatever. And I was like, and sometimes when I sit down and I do readings, I don't always like what I see. I'll be very honest, I don't always like what I see. And if I'm seeing a lot of the same things over and over again, then I might address it, or a lot of times I just start kind of working in a direction to help it heal. So I said, today it's been kind of on my heart, and it was, Maris, just go ahead and let's just do a reading and talk about current events. So please make this interactive, and so if you have questions when I'm reading, I'm going to, do my best to catch them on the comments and answer that question, or maybe we need to throw another card to look at that particular thing. However, we are using the Angels and Ancestors deck. For whatever reason, I wasn't feeling the Medicine Woman deck, and I brought Medicine Woman, Angels and Ancestors, and then that really raunchy sex deck. And I was like, no, I don't feel like using that deck because I may not really like what I see in that one. So we're using Angels and Ancestors. And what we're going to be doing in this reading tonight is we're just going to be looking at some current events. Or to see what the energy is. What is this? I mean, it's crazy. We had Ohio, South Carolina, Houston, Tucson, Arizona last night. And then today at the port of Catoosa. So we've got some really dangerous things that are going on. And then, we've had, the UFOs and the Chinese balloon. And then, they said the Epstein list is coming out. We've got all of this different information, different stuff, different, things being released all around us. And I feel like a lot of us are a little bit on the lost side of it. We're not really sure what to believe, what to understand. Who's telling the truth, who's lying. So whoa, we just had like a whole bunch of cards come flying out, and so So do me a favor, if you're just logging in, love this video, comment where you're watching from, or if you have any questions, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe and follow. If the questions come up after the live reading, I will go back and answer any questions that you might have. Okay, are we getting anything else? Okay, there's that one. Seeing if there's anything else that comes flying out. And any last messages? Anything else? Okay, don't go away. Oh. That one actually went flying right through my hand, so I'm like, oh, heck. We'll just see if we get anything else. A, B, C. Okay, that one's sticking up. Alright, so I've got a handful of cards. Again, we are using the Angels and Ancestors deck. We are doing a reading of discernment for all these different current events that are going on. You know, like we were talking about chemical spills, blah, 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 blah. You know, Ukraine, you name it. Let's look at it. Using the Angels and Ancestors deck. Again, do me a big favor. Love this video. Love it. Comment where you're watching from, or if you have any questions about anything that's going on in the reading, please, go ahead and make a comment, ask your questions. Don't forget to share, and also don't forget to subscribe/follow. So let's get started. We are using the Angels and Ancestors deck by Kyle Gray. And let's see here. Okay. All right. So our first card here, you can see my little screen back there, is the Spirit Fox. And you'll see that it is upside down. And it is talking about, like normally when the Spirit Fox is right side up, we're talking about, hey, things are getting ready to change. And you are totally ready for that change. You've got good foundation, you've got good critical thinking skills, you'll be able to weather this or go through this and do very, very well. But this is upside down. So we've got a little bit different message. The message is still the same, that we got some change in times happening, but as in a whole, we're not ready for, or we don't feel like that we are ready for the changes, the things that are coming up. Okay? I'm going to say that deep down inside, yes, we can do this, and yes, we are ready, but there are many people out there that don't feel like that they are equipped, body, mind, and spirit, for any kind of big major change coming through. And I'm like, so what were people talking about? People were talking about like alien invasion. There have been 4 UFOs and balloons and this and that and etc. And I'm like, honey, they are not balloons. They are not aliens. They are drones that are being used for reconnaissance. And remember, before that they come in, anything's going to major happen, they're always going to use a reconnaissance. They want to see what's going on, what's the energy like. Just like a reading, the readings that I do are a reconnaissance of the energy that's around us. And chance is always going to favor a prepared mind and give you insight to resolutions or solutions, remedies to what's going on. So even though we don't feel like we're equipped, we are equipped. We just have feelings of inadequacy when we think about changing times, things happening through there. All right, so what is our obstacle in this? And the obstacle is talking about, and let's kind of make her a little bit bigger. We're looking here at the Water Guardian, and the Water Guardian is all about your emotions. And when she's balanced, when that Water Guardian is balanced, we are we go with the flow, per se. We go with the flow. Now, we're looking at the Water Guardian in our obstacle position. And remember that our energy coming in with this is talking about not feeling adequate or feeling like we're prepared for changing times, for things coming in. So when that is, in a kind of a chaotic energy, this cool, calm, and collect emotion and going with the flow is an obstacle to this potential chaos. Whether it's internal chaos, external chaos, doesn't make a difference. What it's looking at through there is saying that even though that there's a lot of chaotic stuff coming through and a lot of negative kind of energy, the cool part to it is that you're going to have a sense of control. We have a sense of control over our emotions. So, and it just made me think of, if you've ever heard about, like, when the stock market fell back in the 1920s and everything just kind of fell apart, and then the depression set in, that how many people, when they realized that, the stock market had crashed, how many people committed suicide? It was total chaos. And here's the difference, though, is that even though we have that potential chaos, our energy, our emotions, the way that we look at things are actually going to be, what I'm going to say, fairly calm, consistent, strong. So it's not going to be where we're self-initiating a lot of anxiety or chaos, etc., that we're going to look at it with a very calm kind of perspective. Very important in that. Now, our help is chance has favored a prepared mind. So we already know that we have some intense energy. I mean, you read the news, you'll, get on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and you see it all over social media. There's a lot of negative things that are happening in the world. We've got a war in Ukraine that is just astronomically expensive, and nobody really knows where all the money has gone to. We have, the Epstein files, and, that are allegedly, the Epstein client list has allegedly been released, and, so there's just a lot of anxiety that's going on around us. And the energy here is just really talking about surrounding yourself with protective energy. Surrounding yourself with protective energy. So what is protective energy? So when you sit there and you think about surrounding yourself with protective energy, do you meditate? Well, I quasi-meditate. I meditate about once a week, meditate every day. Are you putting good food, healthy food into your body? They talk about, I've been hearing some word on the street about a food shortage, especially since the spill up in Ohio. That's on some pretty vast farmland out there. So, go buy seeds, start planting a garden, and you're like, but I live in an apartment. Get containers. Get friends that have area to grow some vegetables and maybe some fruit. It's really important that when you talk about protective energy, that you think about what you're putting into your body, such as your foods. Probably you want to stay away from things that are low vibrational, like more than one beer. Okay, I always say one beer is medicinal and two is drinking. Think about, do you like crystals in your house? Do you have your crystal grid set up in your house? I have friends that have crystals, and and I have crystals too. And we set up grids in our house. That's our protective energy. What about, your daily, like going back to that daily meditation? It's really super important to meditate. And when you meditate, it's really super important to also just listen, because the universe talks to us all the time. all the time. And it's important that we start paying attention to the messages of the universe by listening, and then also looking at things what I call patterns. So, it's like friends like to talk about, oh, how often do you see the numbers 1111, 1111, or 222 or 555 or, whatever. Pay attention to those kind of things. That's the way that the universe talks to us. And again, this third card here, this is talking about what is our help. And our help right here is saying one of the things that you have to do is you're going to have to surround yourself with protective energy. A lot of my friends will say, oh, Maris, I'm just going to like turn the TV off and I'm off of Facebook. I'm not going to listen. And I'm like, girl, I know that you were on YouTube. I was like, I'm not saying don't be aware, but be aware. That's protecting yourself, paying attention to what is, and I look at all avenues of news. It was, I kept saying, okay, when do I need to start talking about this? And I was like, give me a sign. And I logged on to do one of my online sessions. And on my news feed, it talked about the port of Catoosa and that we had a chemical fire there today. So that was my sign that it's time for us to start talking about how do I keep myself sane, yes, through all this insane stuff around us. And again, reinforcing, protect yourself, surround yourself with protective energy. If my Catholic friends love to wear their rosaries. That's their protective energy. My Buddhist friends, they like to wear the chakra bracelets. And so whatever you're doing for your protection energy, that is where you need to put some focus in. Now, this card here is kind of telling us about or the rest of the cards are going to tell us about things that are happening and the way that we're reacting to it, or the way to react, or we can react to it. And so what I'm looking at here when we see the drum is a way that we connect. It is the way that we put our thoughts into motion and create through that motion. It's like when I play my drum. I love playing my drum. All right, and so when I'm looking at this, and the thing that I'm getting is that we cannot be starry-eyed at this time. It's about being very realistic and being down to earth. Being realistic and down to earth. It was funny because people were making jokes about the movie. It looks like the beginning of the movie Red Dawn. With the balloon that they say is, the Chinese spy balloon, etc. And I was like, that's where you're kind of putting in energy or speculation into things. If we sit and listen and move through our time in a realistic manner, like not our head up in the clouds, which, I like to have my head up in the clouds, don't get me wrong, but it's also really important to be grounded and look at things with a very simplistic perspective, very down to earth and realistic with that perspective. And that's what I'm looking at in this particular card. It is important that we take care of our needs. Okay, getting ourselves back into balance, body, mind, and spirit. We have only a couple of weeks of winter left, maybe 3-4 weeks of winter left. So it's really important that we do have some focus and direction. And I'm like, man, we got my wolf there, and so that energy is very strong, very proud, very resilient. But again, it is talking about very important to make sure that all of your that you're taking care of your needs, that you're putting yourself into balance or grounding, body, mind, and spirit during, we've got 4 weeks left of the winter time. So it's like, get yourself on a good foundation, on a good path, a good plan, and then always think about plan B, C, D, and E. You want to make sure that you are addressing things in your life, in your work, and etc., so that you have a sense of being in that strong foundation. And you have that sense of that I'm grounded. Okay, I'm in a good place. I can focus here or I can focus there, because everything else is kind of running really smoothly on autopilot. Just because it's chaotic all the way around you doesn't mean that your sacred space or your space has to be chaotic as well. Alright, so we're looking at the next 4 weeks. You need to be paying attention to this. Alright, so when I looked at this, I looked at this card, and normally when I think of the Lord card, it's kind of like taking the bull by the horns, or being in authority, taking charge. What I'm getting in here is, it's important that you think through before you think through things, think through what you're learning or you're hearing or you're seeing before you make rash judgment or a rash call on something. Some things on the surface will not look right, and I'm going to say because it's dusty, it's dirty, it needs to be wiped off, and then you see all that's the authentic below that. And then you're also going to have things that look really beautiful in front of you, but their looks are deceiving. Looks are deceiving on through that. So it's this card is really talking about taking your time before you make rash judgment or rash decisions. All right. I love this because this is so important. We are not alone. Our angels, our ancestors, our spirit guides of, the big kahuna, chi, universe, Tawanka, whatever you want to call that force that's greater than ourselves, wants to remind you that even though there's a lot of chaos going on, that there is a lot of negative vibration, a lot of negative energy, a lot of negative talk. I don't recommend on getting on Twitter right now. It's real hateful on there. But this reminder here is that regardless of all of this other minutia, this other stuff that's going on, that we are not alone. A lot of my friends that are Christian, or they're into kind of like the spiritual, talking about, angels and demons and Satan and God, etc. And and they have this degree of confidence, and they talk about in this degree of confidence that we already know how the story ends. The light, the good, peace, love, harmony, whatever, always prevails. And remember that. And this is when I look at this card and I see that white feather, I remember that we're going to do just fine through this. It's a lot of chaos, and this chaos is meant to weaken our spirit and weaken who we are, but chance favors a prepared mind. And if you know that, they're going to try to mess with your mind, the body, mind, and spirit through there and create a lot of uneasiness, that that you can go into your sacred space and work your meditation, work your positive mantras, whatever that you do to create that sacred space. Just do it, and do it every day. And I was going to say, practice makes perfect. But every day that you're doing that, you're connecting in with your angels, your ancestors, your spirit guides, the big G, the whole schematic of love and light and harmony. You're connecting into that collective vibration of that, and it's really important to remember that chaos is meant to take you off guard. It's meant to unground you. It's meant to put you in a state of fear and despair and all that negative junk. But chance favors a prepared mind. So you're already setting up your plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. I'm like, are we already at G? We're already at G. Because you want to make sure that you want to make sure that every perspective, every avenue that you can feasibly think of in your conscious self, or maybe your higher self, speaks to you and tells you, don't forget about this, or maybe think about that. Really important to do that. But most importantly, we remember that we're not alone. We've got all of that wonderful, again, our angels, our archangels, our ancestors, our granny, our grandpa. Alright, so this again, I love this, because I'm looking at this, and this card straight up is talking about you have to look beyond the shish show that's happening right now. You have to look beyond that. It is a distraction. You're going to hear 5 million different things about 5 million different people, places, whatever. And they're going to bombard you with a whole lot of information, and most of it isn't even true. That's why you're meditating, because you're going to get the truth through your meditation on that. You're going to discern all of that information, all of those vibrations that are around you. That discernment is super important. And connecting in and being grounded and doing your meditation helps you connect in with source, so that you can discern, interpret whatever way you want, whatever word you want to use, that you can figure out what's going on without being bombarded from Fox News and CNN and blah, 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 all those people there. More importantly, let's take a look at this chick here, though. She's got her eyes covered. So when I say see beyond this current situation, what we're also thinking about is, what are you psychically seeing beyond the current situation? Because if you're looking psychically at what's going on right now, you're going to get bombarded and just overwhelmed with, because, everybody's firing out different information through there. So it's kind of like disconnect. My favorite phrase to use is show me. Show me what I need to know. I'll sit down, close my eyes, put my little eye thing covers on, or sometimes I'll just lay down and close my eyes, and I'll say, show me what I need to know. And then those things come up in my meditation about what I need to know, what I need to share, what I need to be paying attention to, what I need to be looking at. Okay? And so when we're looking at this card, what is she doing? She's got her eyes covered, her eyes closed. She's probably in a pretty deep meditative state, and she is looking beyond the chaos. So if this was all a tornado, we're not looking at the tornado. We don't want to look at the tornado. We want to look at the aftermath of that, because that's going to give you a whole lot more information on how you fine-tune what you're doing today for when the times change and you're in a different position, a different place, or, 3 months down the road. It will give you more insight to what is coming after this chaotic rush, so that you, as in chance favors a prepared mind, right? That you can make some really good choices today on where you need to prep for tomorrow or in the future through there. Alright, so Protection Guardian comes up, and this is saying drop your shields, okay? I'm going to take this a little bit deeper than dropping our shields. Let's drop our biases. Drop the bias. Drop your bias. What is bias? Bias is a predetermined belief that we may share or believe or have about people, places, things, events, presidents, whatever. But that bias is usually based upon our own experience, or it can be based on a perception of something just from what people tell you, or what you see on YouTube, or, I perceive that liver tastes gross. So, I'm not an organ meat eater, so I would say I am biased against liver. I've had it a couple of times. It's okay. Would I eat it every day? Heavens, no. Now, I've never eaten sesos or brains, and so I'm over here. I am biased against sesos. You'll never see me eat that kind of organ meat, ever. So and I'm like, and I know it says to drop my bias, but you will never see me eat organ meat. Well, what we're really looking at on the bias isn't about liver or eating sesos. It's about the way that we look at each other. And sometimes we have these biases that we develop because of things that we read either on the internet, like Twitter, YouTube. Twitter, like I said, is a hate machine. It's not as bad as it used to be, but Elon Musk has kind of made this like free speech, and he's going to, honor everybody's free speech, and some people just say some really jacked up things. And the one thing that I do believe in this is that when we're on the internet and there is no eye contact, that's why I like doing readings. I don't like doing them over the phone. I like doing them on my online, or doing them in person, or when I'm doing a reading like tonight, I want you to see my eyes. It's going to make, and I would love to see your eyes too, but I don't know how to figure that out on my computer and all of that. But it's important, because people are going to have more truth in what they say when you make eye contact than what they would in a post or a tweet or whatever they're called. I don't know what they're called on Instagram. I don't remember. So when you look at this and you're like, so you go on something like Twitter. Oh, thank you, Patty. I see, well, no, I don't see you, but I do see your little icon. Watch your weather. Oh, definitely. And also, let's talk about that weather for just a second. And then I'm going to go back to this dropping your biases here. Be very mindful of any winds blowing in from the north or the east. Those are contaminated areas. and you know that the planes have been making all the little crisscrossies up in the sky. Call me a conspiracy theorist, I don't care. And that creates weather changes. We do not want any winds coming in from the northeast, or we will have some contaminated air, contaminated land, etc. And then I'm going to be saying this, I'm going to add my little 2 cents in. Y'all need to come in and get some ionic foot detoxes. Because if you're outside breathing this crap in, it's going to be hitting us, even if it's indirectly or diluted. And ionic foot detoxes are a really great way to eliminate that junk from your body. Or take activated charcoal, bentonite clay, put it on the bottom of your feet, put it all over your body. Hey, you want to come get a clay wrap? We'll do a clay wrap. I don't care. But let's think about the detoxing and keeping our body clean, because already earlier in the reading today, it was talking about your protective energy, and that's a protective energy. So be mindful when Pamela says, watch your weather, check your air quality, because there is a lot of junk floating around in this air. All right, let's get back on track with dropping our biases. So when this says to drop our bias, this says drop your bias. Drop it. Drop it, drop it, drop it. Leave it alone. Okay, if you have never had, now, you'll never see me eat Cecil, so I don't know why I keep going back to that. But this is more about people and experiences or things going on in the world. Drop your bias. Just because you had one negative experience with another culture doesn't mean all of the people of that culture are bad. I met a girl who lived on the north side, and all those north side people are all stuck up. Okay, that's being biased. This is talking about drop your biases. Just because you had one negative experience or a couple of negative experiences doesn't mean the whole lot is bad. That goes for church, schools, whatever. Just because you've had a negative experience in a church doesn't mean all churches are bad. They're human. Now, chance favors a prepared mind. And I love this card. It's talking about success and happiness. And what we're looking in here is that, again, chance favors a prepared mind. If you already know they're going to throw nonsense your way, you're not going to be feeding into their nonsense. If you know that the air is going to have some yuckiness out there, I'm like, it's okay. And I'm like, people know that I'm not into masks, and I wouldn't, it's like when COVID was hot and heavy and everybody was like, wear a mask, wear a mask. I'm like, I don't wear a mask. And I didn't wear a mask unless I absolutely had to go into a store or whatever. But I'm going to say this. If you, and I'm saying this as a nurse, as a naturopath, if you have a history of respiratory ailments, you don't need to be running around outside unless you have a mask on. And I'm like, I can't believe I said that. But I was like, people that have compromised immune systems, if you have a lot of comorbidities where you got diabetes, hypothyroidism, and my blood pressure, and I got cholesterol and arthritis, and did I say I have the beaties? All of those things. You need to, when the air quality is crappy, you need to be wearing a mask. It's just common sense. It's not about you giving somebody else cooties. It's about you not breathing in that crap that's out there. But go ahead and get yourself a package of them, because they get dirty, and after an hour or so, they need to go into the trash or go into the wash if you make your own. through there. Really, they're contaminated after, really after 15, 20 minutes, they're contaminated. But, after an hour, we really need to be thinking about taking them off and changing them out, etc. But if you're going out, I love my people, I love my friends, I love my followers, I love, anybody. I'm going to say, I love you enough to tell you to please, or to give you direction or consejo to wear that mask. It's it's not worth to breathe in all those chemicals. And I would rather breathe in my Febreze than breathe in that stuff any old day. All right, so we already know that we're being prepared. We're going to be okay, guys. We really are going to be okay because we're not going to feed into their nonsense. We're not going to feed into the melodrama. We're not going to feed into the disinformation. We're going to be calm in our emotions. We're going to meditate and ask for that guidance. Whoever your higher source is, just say, show me. And it comes to us. Carl Jung, who's probably like one of my favorite psychoanalysis kind of, philosophers, etc., says that every one of us is an intuitive. Just some people don't turn it on, or they don't turn it on very much. And it's okay to turn it on. And meditation is a good way. Prayer, meditation is a good way in having that conversation and say, show me what I need to know, because that's what the High Priestess card here is saying. Harnessing your mystic power. Connect in with your inner self. Connect in with your higher self. Connect in with Creator Source and just say, show me. You are powerful enough as a human being and a creation of the Creator that you can see and discern through all of this stuff that you're being bombarded with. I love that. I just love that energy, that thought. Okay, so some of us are having difficulties shifting a perspective. We're kind of, and I get being, and I don't want to use the word narrow-minded, because it's not really about narrow-minded. It's more about wearing blinders. This is more about wearing blinders. So we're choosing not to see things. So it's a little bit of denial, a little bit of closing our eyes. I think about, when we're kids and we have fears about monsters underneath our bed or monsters in our closet. I always thought the monsters were in my closet. Not under the bed, they were in my closet. And I always had a fear about looking in the closet because I was afraid of what I might see on the other side. So for a while when I was a kid, this is probably about like 6, 7 years old, I wouldn't hang things up in my closet so I wouldn't have to open the door and confront the monsters in my closet. So when I'm looking at this card, I get the very same feeling that sometimes, or some of us, many of us, maybe all of us, we are hesitant to take those blinders off. We are hesitant to open up that closet door because we don't know what that monster looks like, or if there's even a monster on the other side. So think about that. This is a time for our growth, and this is a time for your growth, my growth, the growth as a community, growth as a world, growth as a people. And through all of this chaos, And even in the aftermath, as we go through the metaphorical debris, we actually realize, and I'm like, I love this part, we realized that we were strong enough for this and that we were able to do that and we could overcome all of the crappy obstacles that they tried to put in our path. I love this card because it's like our true self comes out. My sister and I were driving today, and we were talking just about, all of the all the junk going on, from balloons to UFOs to things catching on fire to chemical spills, etc. And she said, if we shut down, they came in and hit our infrastructure and our grids and power, all of this. She said most people are going to be screwed. And I was like, I think the initial shock of it, the initial jolt of it, I think that, yeah, we would probably think a lot of us are screwed. But I truly believe that we as a people will come together, and I truly believe that we will really unveil some very awesome gifts and talents and strategies, and that we will overcome all of this nonsense that's going on right now. They want to keep us distracted and focused in different ways and looking at different things and weaken us, body, mind, and spirit. But what we're going to learn through all of this here, and this is our last card, is the Fire Guardian. And it's about igniting your passions. And I'm going to say this. This is about igniting your authenticity and unveiling all of your gifts and allowing. And I'm going to say, so if you're 37 years old, you're going to take 37 years of experience and knowledge, and you're going to make something fantastic out of that. That's what this card right over here is saying, that regardless of any obstacle, any minutia, any cramp in our style, whatever way you want to look at it, that we will persevere and we actually come out not like the phoenix, because we're not going to crash and burn, but we're going to come out on top of all of the chaos and disruption and manipulation, whatever you want to call it. We're going to come out on top. We're going to win this. And kind of laughing. I was like, we've been getting lots of narcissism training on how to identify a narcissist and how to identify, that you're being manipulated and what these different manipulations are and etc. And I was like, with all this knowledge base that we get off of the damn internet, off our TikToks and Twitters and stuff, those little seeds of how to fix these will all come alive and come into a fruition, and we're going to be great. We're going to do fine. Yeah, we're going to have some scuffed up elbows and some messed up knees, metaphorically speaking. And we'll probably have our feelings hurt 10 times over. I'm sure. But we come out on top, and we come out as, what's the word I want to use? I don't want to use like a champion, but like the master of our task. We come out as the master of our task. So I'm going to get churchy for just a minute. In scripture, and I read the Peshitta, which is different than like the King James Version and etc. It's the Bible, but it's different. But in what we have in the, Common American Bible, etc., fear not is mentioned 365 times in Scripture. And always remember that negative vibration, negative energy, negative entities, negative people, negative, always, 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 always feeds off your fear. And I truly believe that is why in scripture, that was compiled 1600 years ago, scripture states to fear not. Don't feed those monkeys. Don't give them your fear. If you need to step back and get into your sacred space, your private space, and meditate or pray or take a day off, I used to call it malingering. If you need to malinger today, malinger. If you need to disconnect from all the minutia, disconnect. Don't own it, and don't let it own you. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this reading. Some of it's some heavy stuff to think about. There's a lot of heavy negative energy that's around it, and it's trying to create fear because it's really hungry and it needs your fear. So don't feed it. Let's put it on a diet. We're fear-free today. Peace, love, and harmony. I will see you very soon.